topics and opinions expressed in the following show are solely those of the host and their guests and not those of W4CY Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4CY Radio or its employees or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4CY Radio.
Hello and welcome to the Connected Table Live. We're your hosts, Melanie Young and David Ransom. Your insatiable, curious culinary couple. We travel the world to bring you the amazing people we meet, the places we visit, and the wines and foods we taste, hoping to inspire you to step outside of your tasting comfort zone and expand your palate. Take the trip, drink the sip, and eat the food because life is short. So, we are taking you to a country that we've had a long relationship with, haven't visited in a while and hope to. Many friends are moving there.
That's very true.
Where are we? Spain.
We're going to talk about some Spanish wines and Spanish wines you might not know today, especially grape varieties that are well produced in Spain, and lots of it are grown in Spain, but might not be on the tip of your tongue. So it's nice to kind of dive into this side of Spain because everybody seems to know Tempranillo and Albarino and a couple of grapes like that. But there's a lot more to Spain than just those two grapes.
Absolutely. So let's set this up.
So we want to kind of delve into that today.
Yeah. We actually have a map because I love maps. So we're going to put the map up to show you where we're going because this is a little tour de España. Okay. Juan, our wonderful engineer, will get the map up eventually. But a few facts. Spain is the largest wine producer in the world after Italy and France. Sometimes it goes back and forth with France, but latest statistics, third. What's interesting is Spain has the most planted vineyards under vine. Like as someone once said, Spain is an eternal vineyard. Land-wise, almost 3 million acres, 1.2 million hectares, with more than 100 wine appellations. There's Spain. And over 200 grape varieties. We're talking about the Iberian Peninsula. If you look at the map, there's Spain, and then to the west is Portugal, which we've talked about. It's a very large country with a lot of diversity in its terrain, from mountainous areas to very dry areas. And some wines that are very unique to Spain, right?
Yeah. There is, but there's also in the north of Spain, there's a lot of, it's what they call green Spain. In the northwest of Spain, with the regions of Rías Baixas, and if you go up to San Sebastian, it's much greener and much more temperate up there than the middle of Spain, where that orange part is that we see on the map right now. That's very dry and almost desertous, but a lot of grapes grown there still.
So Spain is just south of France and the Pyrenees. So if you go to Languedoc-Roussillon, you'll see wines with Spanish influence there. As we noted, to the west is Portugal, and you'll see some grapes that are similar there with different names. And then to the far this side, as the ocean is the Mediterranean Sea, you get a lot of Mediterranean influences. In the south is Gibraltar, and next up is Africa and Tunisia. A wonderful, wonderful country. And today, even though Spain, as you noted, produces wines of many styles, notably sparkling wines in the Cava region, which is in the very, very northeastern part of Dio Cava. And there is a lot of wonderful wine regions dedicated to white wine, like Rueda is a great example, and Albarino, as you referenced, in green Spain. And to the very far south, you've got Jerez, sherry, basically Jerez, which is way down in the south, where you can only find sherry from Spain. It is a protected area where you find sherry. And of course, lots of rosés and red. Now, red is probably the most well-known Spanish wines in the world. And as David noted at the beginning of the show, you'll think of the most famous wine that really defines Spanish red wines, which is Tempranillo. We're going to take you beyond Tempranillo on the show, but just very quickly, let's just touch on Tempranillo since it is such an important grape. It accounts for roughly 20% of the vineyard surface planted in Spain. Now, remember, we said Spain has the most land planted under vine, so that's a lot of Tempranillo, and it's grown in different regions where it's also known under different names.
Very true.
You'll mainly know Rioja, which is very well known for Tempranillo, although Rioja Alavesa, because Rioja has different regions, subzones, is the main area. There's also Garnacha in other parts of Rioja, which we'll talk about. And then elsewhere, you may find it under names such as Tinto de País in Ribera Duero, which is a red wine region.
And then also Tinta del Toro over in the region of Toro,
which we've been to and is terrific wines. Tinto de Madrid and Dio Madrid, which you have been to and written about. Sensible in Castilla-La Mancha in the center of Spain, which I've been to. And then Ule de Liebre in Catalonia, because Catalonia has its own language. Basically, when you go there, it's really interesting. But the name Tempranillo actually comes from the Spanish word temprano, which means early, because this is a thick-skinned, early ripening red grape. And the styles will vary based on the type of wood used, barrel, French or American oak, for example, and aging, and there's very strict aging requirements by the Consejo Reguladores of the different regions. But you'll definitely get wines with lingering notes of dark red and black fruits, leather, tobacco, anise, and cacao. These are long aging wines. These are wines that are long aging. And what's really neat is David and I have been pulling Spanish red wines from our personal cellar that we have accumulated for the years that we work with wines from Spain many, many years ago.
And after.
And we've been drinking them. And boy, they've been aging amazing. They really are showing well, don't you think?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
If there's one thing that Spain definitely has, it's longevity to their wines if they're made to age, because wines can be made to either age or drink young. And the wines that they make to age tend to age very well.
Right. So you'll find the younger wines are going to be the Tintos, which is the red, and then Crianza, which is about a year or so of aging, and then Reservas and Gran Reservas. So those you'll see these, and there's very strict aging requirements. These are wines that, like Spanish cuisine, you enjoy with lamb and pork and beef and grilled foods and barbecues and whatnot. Very, very good. We'll move on, but before we do, we'll just touch on some of the most well-known Spanish, I think, Tempranillos, and we've had them on the show. The biggest one is Vega de Sicilia. We've had Vega de Sicilia is one of the great wines. We've had them on our show. You've got Muga, which I have been to. I visited Muga near Aro, and I'd love to get Juan Muga on the show. It's a lovely man, beautiful wines, also beautiful rosés. One of my favorite rosés.
It's one of the great Spanish rosés.
Yeah, Cune, which is a very famous name. And I'm listing kind of some of the big high-end ones. There's the Marqués de Riscal, the Marqués de Murrieta, Lopez de Heredia, which is very traditional. You'll find, as you travel, you'll find the Old World and the New World. Old World is defined as, how would you like to define it? At my first.
More traditionally made. So tend to be made for aging longer, have a little bit more acidity to them, not as plush. And whatnot. So they're made for the long haul.
I tend to think of aging as a bit more elegant, austere, restrained, elegant fruit. Whereas New World, often with American oak, you're going to give it more fruit forward. Some are jammy. There's a wine for every style.
Yep.
So that's Tempranillo. Do we want to add any other wines before we go on?
No, I think we're good.
So I think to underscore, Tempranillo is the dominant red grape. It's really grown all over Spain, much of Spain, but maybe known by different names. And in Portugal, it's Tinta Roriz. So a completely different name over there, but they have it there too, because this is the Iberian Peninsula. But let's talk about the other red grapes. This is going to be a lot of fun. And we've actually had a lot of fun pulling wines that we have in our cellar just to test before this show. The first one is Bobal. Okay, I love the name Bobal because it really does. And Bobal is the grapes clusters behind us. They're bulbous. They're bulbous, big, dark, blue, purple, juicy grapes. It used to be extinct, but they're making a vigorous comeback, particularly in the Valencia area, which I've had the opportunity. I get to go on a Bobal trip to Hotel Requena, which is a wonderful area. You go to the coast, you eat a lot of paella. And
Sounds like fun.
Yes, I want to go back. And Manchuela, another DO that have embraced Bobal as their grape. It's now Spain's second most planted red grape after Tempranillo.
Yeah, it's pretty well planted, and makes some lovely wines. A lot of them are kind of big, juicy wines that you might think that you want to drink young. But we actually had a few over the last week or so as we've been prepping for this show that we pulled out of our own cellar, and none of them were younger than 2008.
Right.
So Bobal, if done right, you can age it for a long time, and it ages beautifully.
Yeah, that was really, this is what's been fun pulling from our cellar, because, you can't take it with you. So we're drinking it now. This is a dark fruit, very intense black currants, plums, black cherries, and spice. High acidity, firm tannins, really good for aging. And you'll get a lot of intense fruit. Very wonderful with those incredible paella dishes, but also stews and grilled meats and North African food, because you're getting down further toward, we're talking about the southeastern, if you look at this map, and it's a little small for us, but the southeastern area, Yecla, Hotel Requena, where you'll find these wines produced. And it's also influenced by North Africa, because you're kind of closer to Africa. So some of the tagines might be really good. And what's interesting is you can't really tell it from these grape clusters, but Bovale, Bovale, is the Latin word for the shape of the grape clusters, which look like a bull's head. I don't think they do, but it's fun. It's a really fun wine, Bobal. I remember when we were over there, I was there with a group of journalists. I think you were on another trip. And I was like, I'm having a Bobal, David. It's just a fun wine.
It is a fun wine. But again, if done right, it can age. One of the Bobals that we had this last week was a wine called, and it's very famous and very, very small production and very high end, called Quincha Corral. And it was from Bodega Mustiguilo, if I said that correctly. And it is from Útil Requena, but it's 100% Bobal, but it's made from vines that were planted in 1919 and then a second vineyard in 1945. So it's very old vine, Bobal, and it retails for, if you can find it, for over $100.
I visited them, and I don't know if you can see. I'm gonna move my head this way. No, this way. If you see that yellow right there and down here, those are giant rocks. So what's interesting is a lot of the area that we visited in Hotel Requena is on a plateau, the plains, much like Châteauneuf-du-Pape in the Southern Rhone, and just as rocky. Some of the rockiest beige soils I've ever seen. Just incredible, which is really great for the drainage, and it just, you would see very, very old vines in this area.
Yeah, and there's a lot of that around Spain. It's got a high density of old vine plantings still in Spain. There's another region and we'll talk about this later, but another region up in the center of Spain, Carignan, which has very old vines and very rocky soil as well.
Well, why don't we pop over to Carignan right now, David? I mean, we're popping there. You've been there. I went to Amiga's dinner, which is their signature food, which I will talk about because it's always fun to talk. So in the area of Bobal and Valencia, it's all about paella. Paella, go get it. I can't wait to go back and just have a paella eat-a-thon with these wines. I mean, I did an article on paella, and just because you got to get the sugar up, right? It's an amazing dish. So Carignan, well, first of all, there's a region, as David referenced, in northeastern Spain called D.O. Carignana, and actually the star grape there is Garnacha.
Right. A little misleading. However, they also grow a lot of the grape Carignana there, which is when I went there, which is what I was there for. I was there to learn about the region, but also do a deep dive into the production of Carignana in the D.O. of Carignana. And there's quite a bit of it grown, and as I said earlier, a lot of it goes back to the late 1800s hundreds, some of the plantings. So it's rocky soils again, arid, and great old vine plantings.
So I'm just to my right, and we'll show the book as well. I'm flipping through a terrific book if you want to learn more about these grapes. It's called Red Wine, and it's a comprehensive guide to the 50 essential varieties by Kevin Zraly, Mike DeSimone, and Jeff Jensen. A fun fact is Mike and Jeff now have a house in Spain and Nerja, and they really are experts on Spain. And this is a terrific book. And the picture David referenced, this is like the high chaparral. I mean, it is dry and high, dry and high. It's pretty amazing. And so a couple things about Carignan, the grape, versus the region. It's also known as Mazuelo I think it's in La Mancha or Rio, somewhere else. It's also known as Mazuelo elsewhere in Spain. As we said, Dio Carignana has Carignana the grape, but also a lot of Garnacha. And there are many old plantings dating back to the 19th century, very, very dry, rocky soils, which help to be a fine struggle. Anyway, it's Mazuelo in Rioja. It's also grown. Carignan is also grown in the Priorat, where it's used in blends, which we'll reference some wines. It is usually a blending grape because it's a bit leathery and tannic, but it does also blossom, as we noted, into its own with smoky notes and spicy anise and peppery black fruits, much like a medium-bodied red. No surprise, because in France, Carignana is known as Carignan.
Right. And then they also grow it in Sardinia quite a bit, in the south end of the Italian island of Sardinia in the Mediterranean, the Tyrrhenian Sea. And there they call it Carignano. Exactly. And I've also been to that area, which is beautiful and makes some fabulous wines.
So Mike and Jeff, I love the way in Red Wine, I got to give them a plug. They're such great guys. They say drink it with Chinese roasted duck. That just made me so hungry, because when do you ever find Chinese roasted duck in Spain, much less in New Orleans, right? And because the red fruit smoke really goes beautiful well with the brown baking spices and smoked meat. That's just making my mouth water. But we could probably try a Carignana wine with Chinese spice, anything we make, right? Just sounds delicious. Now, we tasted some wines from there. I think we tasted some. We're scrolling on our notes just to make sure we're accurate. Yes, René Barbier, Clos Mogador, Magnetes, Vita Gradalopes in Priorat, which is a DOCA, which is really high up there. 100% Carignana.
Garnacha.
It says Carignana right here.
Yeah,
it is. Yeah, no, he does Garnacha. As I said, Priorat's known for Garnacha, but they also have Carignana. Gotcha. And it is a splurgy wine. And Mike and Jeff agree in Red Wine. But they also, what I love about this book, again, I'll give them a plug. They mentioned some bargain wines, and they mentioned Bodegas Panizza and Grandes Viñas and Viñedos El Circo Equilibrista, and value wines, Perolada Finca, La Garriga Carignan, and Perolada is Castilla Perolada. We've been up in that area.
Been there. And I've also been to Panizza as well. When I was in the region of Carignana, I went to Bodegas Panizza, and they make some beautiful wines. One of the wines that they made was a wine that they called Slate, and it was because the vines that grew in basically a slate rock field, and it was very old vines, but you couldn't see any soil. It was just huge chunks of slate sitting on top of the ground, and that's what the vines were growing up out of. I mean, and they were probably the size of a shoebox, all the pieces of rock. So it was all tumbled down off the slope, and the vines grew out of that. Very old vines, very hard to till, obviously, and very hard to cultivate. But so they kind of let them do what they wanted to do. There were no trellises. It was just bush vines growing up out of the rock. It was really interesting. And a wonderful wine.
What's neat, the terrain is important in the soil, and Spain has a multitude. And whenever you see rocky soils, you're going to probably have some amazing wines because the vines are struggling.
Yeah, I think Bodegas Panizza really had some of the best wine in that area, the area of Dio Carignano.
Here's a special occasion wine that I've had that the Mike and Jeff and Kevin recommend: Val Lac Porrera. Oh, wait, that's the one I just talked about.
The Senza Porrera.
Oh, Senza Porrera. Yeah, Val Lac. And that's a special occasion. I mean, these are not always special occasion wines. You can get some value wines as well, but we'd like to show all sorts of, and this is a blending. So later we're going to talk about when we get to the next grape, which is Garnacha. We had an amazing blend of a wine, and we'll get to that right now. So we touched on Garnacha, which is one of the most widely planted grapes in the world. It is said to have originated in Spain and was brought to other parts of the world, such as France, where it's known as Grenache.
Mm-hmm.
And Italy as well during the crown of Aragon in the 12th to 17th centuries, which is why sometimes it's known as Tinto Aragonese. Like Carignan, Garnacha thrives in hot, dry Mediterranean climates, which is why you'll see it. The map's gone. But let's put the map back up. It's to the Mediterranean, very, very Mediterranean, rocky. And if you go to Priorat, it's just tiers of what do you call it? Tiered vineyards, terrace vineyards. Thank you. It's just really hard to till. Again, really rough terroir to till and maintain, but it makes beautiful wines. Just some of my favorite wines of Spain.
Yeah, and Garnacha obviously is Grenache in France,
right? And
then for some reason we keep going back to Sardinia. It's called Cannonau in Sardinia, so it's one of the premier red grapes on the island of Sardinia as well.
I'm just pulling up Garnacha.
But we're talking about Garnacha, which is, as they say, originated in Spain. It's widely planted, especially in the eastern portions of Spain.
Yes.
And make some great wines.
You also, and let's just talk about Rioja, because in Rioja Orientale, which was formerly Rioja Baja, because there's Rioja Alavesa and there's Rioja Baja, you will find where Rioja Alavesa, you will find Tempranillo focused wines. Mm-hmm. It's a different terroir in Rioja Orientale, and it's closer toward the sea somewhat, and you'll find Garnacha. So kind of interesting. And Alvaro Palacios is one of our favorite producers. He makes beautiful Garnacha there. I don't have the name of the wine, but Alvaro Palacios, buy anything he makes. And Garnacha is the backbone of many Priorat wines blended with Carignan. We referenced that with the René Barbier wine, which actually was 100% Carignan, but we tasted a wine. I also want to know that this is kind of new since we work with wines from Spain. Calatayud. Calataud. Superiore is a newer category of wine that requires a minimum of 85% be made with Garnacha, with a minimum of 50-year-old vines. So you're talking old wines, old vines, and new categories, because like everywhere in Europe, Spain is always creating interesting categories to elevate the wine and acknowledge the finest wines in the smaller plots and lands, and of course embrace terroir. So if you love Garnacha, and we do, you're going to love it with lamb and truffled pasta and mushroom dishes and many other items like that, stews, cheeses. It's one of my favorite grapes, whether it's in Spain or France. And as you said, it's known as Cannonau in Sardinia. It just has a life everywhere. Just really terrific wine. Let's talk about some of the wines we tasted that are Garnacha.
Oh, there's so many in Spain that are great Garnacha-based wines, but we could definitely talk about a couple of them.
Well, the one we're going to talk about is the one we have in front of us. It was a 2002, so if you find it, good for you. It's called Cellar Mas Garian Mas de Camperol. It's from a Priorat, and it was beautiful. 30% Garnacha, 30% Cabernet Sauvignon, 25% Carignan, and 15% Syrah. That was a beautiful way of seeing it blended, and it was gorgeous. The other one that we liked.
It's a Priorat. Now, Priorat is a region south of Barcelona along the coast.
Yeah, at point, but
and then
northeastern south,
kind of in the eastern section of Spain. And there's a lot of Garnacha grown there, and it's really kind of one of the darling regions of the recent expansion over the last 50 years or so in Spain of winemaking. And a lot of people flock to Priorat to take over old vines and plant new ones, and it really creates some fabulous wines. And really some of the great wines from Spain are coming from that region at this point. There's great modern wines.
And it's interesting. It's also a great place to visit. It's stunning terroir,
Yeah.
and you're by the sea. The vistas are amazing. Another, as we mentioned in Rioja Orientale, Palazos Ramondo Propriedad in Rioja is that 90% Garnacha old vines with about made of indigenous varieties. Another terrific area. In the bargain category, because we just want to make sure we're not just going high end, Mike and Jeff Ramon Bilbao, very popular brand. Palacios Ramondo, which I just mentioned, Alvaro Palacios, who we referenced. And Las Rocas, and in the value, Bodegas Artadi makes a really great one. These are very big names. You can find them here in the United States very, very well. And of course, the splurge, we mentioned Dominio de Pingas. We've not had Peter Sisek on the show. We should. We see him all the time at the Wine Spectator events. Amazing wines. And
then also Clos Mogador. And
yes.
also Sarah Perez's wines.
Yes.
As well.
We've had her on the show.
Yes, we have.
Yeah. So wonderful wines.
Wonderful wines.
And fairly not voluptuous, but just it's out there. You can find Garnacha really easily in the United States, which isn't always the case with Bobal. You have to do a little more searching to do that. Which brings us to two other grapes. They both start with M. And you maybe have to look a little further, but they're both really terrific. And we had the great honor of working with these different DOs during our time working with Spain over the years. The first is, I love saying it, Mencía. Mencía. It's spelled M-E-N-C-I-A, but you go Mencía. And it's notably cultivated in Dio Bierzo. Bierzo. It's a cooler climate area in northwestern Castilla y León, so you're going to be up further.
To the west?
Yes, to the west.
Towards Portugal, but not quite there.
And it's getting a lot of attention.
Yeah.
These are beautiful wines. A lot of people compare a Mencía to Cabernet Franc. And once people thought that it was related to that, but that people thought it was related. We don't necessarily agree with that, do we?
I don't.
No, we don't. So let's talk about the wines we tasted. But I'm going to go to my trusted Mike and Jeff book.
Mencía historically is something that was a little bit more lighter bodied, more acidic, and meant to be drunk young, just kind of a wine for pleasure, shall we say. It wasn't a wine that you needed to think about. And then, like so many regions, started to modify their output. Bierzo has also started to make more high-end types of Mencía wines.
Right.
And we had a couple of great ones from our cellar this past week as we were doing our research for the show. They started to create more full body to them, vinify them a little bit differently, age them a little bit longer, much more full-bodied and plusher, etc. Different style than we were used to when we first started drinking these wines, as most people probably would think.
And there's also a range based on where it's cultivated, because it can go from like violet and lighter berry notes to deeper notes, because some people have also compared it to Pinot Noir. Very, very different range from Cabernet Franc.
Yeah, and really the Pinot Noir connection for me is how I first thought of it.
I agree.
As being Spain's Pinot Noir. Yeah. And, I may get some pushback from that, but I'm putting it out there. But these more modern styles and the more full body styles are nothing like Pinot Noir.
Yeah. And then I think that was surprising when we were pulling out the wines to taste. The Cabernet Franc to me is more peppery and earthy. You can get some like that. They say because the traditional taste profile is red and black fruit, black pepper, floral hints of violet. Got that one. And minerally. In Portugal, it's known as Dao or Jen. I can't speak Portuguese, so I'm sorry if I'm butchering it. Jaen or Dao. Again, if it's in Spain, it's probably in Portugal by another name, and potentially in Italy or France by another name as well. High acidity means it'll be great with seafood, tuna, vegetables, smoked meats, and fatty fish. So we've been drinking it with that because I don't eat a lot of meat. What have we had?
We actually had a few. I like Bierzo and I like Mencía.
Yeah.
Couple that we had last week were one from Bodegas Luna Beberid, which is he's a very famous producer. Doesn't make a lot of wine, but makes very great wines. And one of the wines that we had by him was called Art, just like talking about art. ART by Bodegas Luna Beberid, 100% Mencía. And we had actually a 2009, and it was fabulous, just rich and ripe and full of life.
And then we also had the Picantal Palacio de Canedo by Bodegas Prado e Tope, 100% Mencía from Dio Bierzo. Oh, it's right in front of us. We have the empty, but we saved a few of the empty bottles.
No, we have another bottle.
Oh, we have a full bottle.
We have another bottle because we're going to try it.
Maybe we'll have
it. So this
is
the Picantal. If you could see, there you go. If you can see it in the picture, it is. This was a 2008 that we had. I actually had a couple of bottles. So, but really, just a fabulous, full-bodied, rich, ripe, lovely wine.
Really lovely wine. So Mencía, if you can find it, you will love it. And and
again, 100% Mencía.
Yeah. So terrific wines. And so these are wines to ask for when you go to your store. Now, the next one is actually better known. It's called Monastrell. Native to Spain, it's a full-bodied tannic red grape, also known as Mataro. Elsewhere, it's known as Mourvèdre in the Rhone Valley, which is a very classic blending grape.
A lot of it in France too,
and also in South Africa and California. You'll find it. It's a common red grape used in the classic GSM Garnacha, Syrah, and Mourvèdre Rhone blend. You can find it in some of the smaller DOs of Spain, including Alicante, haven't been, Almanza, we worked with, Jumilla have been, and Yegla have been. And those are towards the southeastern Mediterranean coast, which makes a lot of sense because these wines are better known in the southern part of the Rhone, which is closer to the Mediterranean. So you'll get that Mediterranean influence. The name may have come, I always like to find out what the name that grape, from Monasteria, harking back to when monks first cultivated this grape in Catalonia. That's kind of a fun fact, right? I pulled up on red wine. So we're talking about, more in the Mediterranean and southeastern, so warmer climate. Mike and Jeff say Monastrell has a wild side that's hard to control. It can have a high alcohol level, lack of oxygen, which gives it challenging because it becomes reductive, which I will not have to get into right now for my listeners, but you've got to decant it. You've got to coax it, get the flavors out.
And I think that has a lot to do with why most of the time it's used as a blending grape.
Right.
Or it's created in a blend and not left on its own. But they do a lot of varietal Monastrell in Spain, which is, and I think it's actually interesting. It's a very nice wine for me.
And
they tend to be ripe and they kind of tend to be ripe and jammy and lots of fruit.
Yeah, I haven't had them from Australia, but apparently the grape is grown in Australia. We've done absolutely zero with Australia lately. Why? Because we haven't been there. Why? Because we haven't had many Australian wines. But let's go back to Spain because this is a wonderful full mouthfeel wine. Mike and Jeff recommend it with more paella. But of course, paella valenciana. Not one of those, I love this, not one of those phony mussel and chorizo concoctions. So we have to go to Valencia and have authentic paella.
Do they have mussels in Spain?
Yeah, they have mussels in Spain. But I love it. Not one of those phony, you got to get the paella valenciana. Pork ribs.
Well, I think it would be great with barbecue food because it's got a little spiciness and lots of ripe fruit to it on its own, and that kind of tends to go well with things that you throw on the grill.
So really great for Texas barbecue, Tennessee barbecue, Carolina barbecue, Chinese spare ribs, and probably down here Cajun food, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So who are we drinking with? Oh, Enrique Mendoza La Tremenda de Alicante 100% Monastrell. That's one that I have in the list here. And so if you want to check us out, The Connected Table is on Substack and theconnectedtable.com blog. We list these wines so you can reference them there.
And maybe the most well-known Monastrell would be from Juan Gil, which is the silver label that you see in just about every store in the United States.
Very affordable.
It's very affordable. It's plush, well-known. You can see it on a lot of different wine lists as well. And that's a family that is very well ensconced in Spain. They have 11 wineries.
Yeah. And the name of it is Rongo Dongo. Just gotta love the nut. And it's prolific. It's everywhere. Some other ones, and what I love in red wine, there's only two categories: bargain and value. Whereas in some of the other ones, there was bargain, value, and splurge. So what does that mean? These are wines to drink, and they're going to be good bargain.
Right. These are wines you can pop every day.
Yeah,
if you want to.
Bodegas Murcia, not Murcia, Murcia, Enrique Mendoza, Castillo de Barón, Bodegas Castaña. And their ultimate pick for value, other than Rongo Dongo, Enrique Mendoza Estrecho. Not had any of them, which means we need to get back to Spain and go do some sipping.
Do some research.
We got to do some research, and we got to get outside of our own cellar. We have a lot of wine in our cellar. We're really blessed to have them, and we are drinking them. And which leads us to, so those are the red wines you should know. There's some other ones. I mean, when we have gone to the Great Match in Spain, which is always one the wines from Spain, E6, big extravaganza. If it's coming to your city, go. We've been to it umpteen times in New York and produced it. We tasted some other wines.
It'll be taking place in New York October 6th this year.
October 6th, 2026.
Correct.
Bingo, bingo, bingo. And you can go if you're just a regular wine lover. But we tasted Tintilla from Cadiz, a red wine from Mallorca and the Balearic Islands. I want to go to all the islands and try the different red grapes there. We just need to go over and do it. And go visit all our friends who are moving there.
We've touched on five or six wine grape varieties in this, but there's 200 grape varieties that are produced in Spain. There's a ton of different types of grapes. Like Italy, there's a lot of different types of grape varieties grown all over the country. And it's nice just to be able to delve in and try some from here and there and see what you like. That's one of the things that we like to do. Absolutely.
And I think what's really important is never typecast a country for its wine, because every region is unique. Every sub-region is unique. They have little pagos, which are really, pago is a term in Spain for a super special wine that has its own own region. So read the labels, talk to your sommelier if you go out to dinner, or your wine cellar, and ask them what they have. And give them an idea of what you like in your taste preference, because the wines do vary quite a bit in Spain, which is what we love about it. What we really do.
Speaking of Pago,
yes,
one of the ones that we talked about earlier was from a Pago. The Quinta Corral is a Pago wine. So it's basically an estate or delineated area that is so specific it's named after that area.
So specific and so special and unique. And there are not many Pago. I know when I was working with wines from Spain, there was like 6. I think there's a lot more now. And they are kind of banded together as a group to promote the Pagos, but they're very special. And it's an important term to know if you're drinking Spanish wines, among many terms. We could give you tons of reference as to places to learn more. Foods and Wines from Spain has a terrific website if you want to go explore this institute. What is it? The Institute in what's the name of the famous educational place in New York that Helio runs? There's an Instituto Cervantes. Instituto Cervantes is a wonderful school that will teaches you about wine. Helio San Miguel, we want to have on our show. He couldn't make it because he teaches on Wednesday, but we will have him on.
We'll get him.
There's wonderful, and there's a Spanish wine scholar. There's a lot of ways to learn about Spain. So dive in and explore. And of course, the best way is just to go taste. So I think that's a wrap for Spain. We can't wait to go back. It's on our radar. And again, if you want to learn more about red wine in general, we do recommend this terrific book, Red Wine, The Comprehensive Guide to 50 Essential Varieties and Styles. I also like Jancis Robinson's book on grapes. She does a good job too. I find this one, though, Red Wine, great because it talks about food pairings. And whenever I drink wine, I always want to think about the food that I'm having. And when I'm drinking wine from a specific region, be it Spain, Italy, France, I think about that local dish that's so special to and unique to the area, like paella in Valencia. So I hope this show has been helpful. I know we're broadcasting it live in the first day of April. So many of you are probably planning trips for summer or end of the year. So hopefully you'll put Spain on your radar, and we will too.
There are a couple of holidays happening this week, so maybe you'll pick up a bottle and have it during one of those.
Yeah. Absolutely. So you've been listening to a delicious edition of the Connected Table, where David and I just like to talk about what we're drinking and share our opinions with you. Let's hear from you. Follow us at The Connected Table on Instagram. Please check out our newsletter either on Substack at The Connected Table or visit theconnectedtable.com, and you'll find our blog there. We want you to expand your horizons and your palate and get out there and explore and drink some great wine and support wonderful producers, many who are family owned and would love to share their wine with you. So always, thank you from us to yours, and stay insatiably curious.